world had been rocked with all these allegations with Vince McMahon, the sex trafficking, the sexual assault allegations. We had already heard in around June 2022 about the 3 million hush money that the payment was made to a paralegal that Vince had relations with, and that he had passed her like a toy onto John Laurinaitis. But through, the 67-page lawsuit, it got into much more detail, and some real disturbing graphic detail at that. With McMahon, there's always going to be the McMahon loyalists. There's always going to be people like your Pat McAfee, your John Cena, your Undertaker that are going to defend Vince, stick by him, and have his back. That's just how it is. And I found it very interesting that the past 24 hours that 2 different interviews came out. An interview that Cena was on the Howard Stern show. John Cena was on the Howard Stern show saying about how, I love the guy, I see him as a friend, you're going to accept your friend's imperfections, rah, 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 all this stuff trying to stick up for Vince, have his back. And then Randy Orton came out, and he didn't exactly defend Vince, but Randy Orton was just saying, all this stuff that effing breaks my heart, hurts my heart. Vince has always been good to me, this, that, the other. And I feel like this could just be a coincidence, but I just feel maybe it's by design to try and control the narrative somewhat with McMahon. That you've got the 2 top stars from what some would say, the ruthless aggression era, the 2 big names post Attitude Era, you could say, are Cena and Orton. Linda McMahon in a 2001 conference call, I believe, said that these 2 young guys, we think they could be the future of our company, and these are the 2 guys that 24 hours apart, and you've got in separate interviews, and Cena has been a bit more kind of transparent in defending McMahon. But then Orton's not exactly condemning what happened, what took place either. It's not like, like Eric Bischoff, Bret Hart, people like that straight up condemning Vince. So I think there's that agenda there to try and control the narrative a bit with Vince. And that's going to happen, because it's a little different, because I don't think it's like Harvey Weinstein, where I don't think no one generally liked Harvey Weinstein, and when all this stuff came out with Weinstein, that was it. He was done. Like Oprah, everyone that was around him just wiped their hands of him. But I think it's going to be a little bit different in McMahon's case, that there'll be people there that are going to be by his side. With this, there's just all this stuff with wrestling, and all this, the controversy, all this other stuff with, other allegations, and there's the real dark side to the business. And there was very much, I would say, more a darker side. You're talking, 20, 30, 40, even you could say 50 years ago. You got that show that Vice does, Dark Side of the Ring, and they really get into that. And they did a really good job. And with that, Dark Side of the Ring, they had done an episode titled Plane Ride from Hell. And that was the plane ride that was after the Insurrection pay-per-view. Just 2 days, funnily enough, before WWF went to being known as WWE. And so many stories from that plane ride from hell. And some of the stuff, you've got Ric Flair, the whole thing with Flair, and it was on that the Dark Side of the Ring episode, with the allegations surrounding Flair, that he what he did to the two flight attendants. And one of them that spoke on the documentary was a woman by the name of Heidi Doyle. She was one of the flight attendants on the notorious flight. Now, it came out later with Heidi Doyle, I think it was 5 years or 7 years later, that she had stole $80,000 worth of jewelry. So you wonder, a story like that, she's done that, and then she's the one of the two that comes out to speak publicly on this. You think, I don't know, I'm a bit unsure. Is she 100% credible with this? But then all the things with the stories with Ric Flair and partying and just having nothing but his robe on, we've all heard about these stories before. And Rick back in a period where it was more social acceptable, even like 15, 20 years ago, where the culture was a lot different, where you could tell these stories at a Hall of Fame ceremony and you got everybody laughing in knots. It would be a little bit different now. I don't think, doubt you'd be able to get away with telling stories like that. I very much, that would be like a, oh, no, that would be a total no. But the stuff with Ric Flair, there's a lot of stories out there on Ric Flair. He is another one that's very quite questionable. But there was a backlash to Flair with the Dark Side of the Ring, but it was more the fans had a backlash. It wasn't really so much the people in the business. I think there was only maybe one or two people that, when I saw on social media, commented on Flair and said, oh, he's a bad guy, piece of shit, whatever, from the Dark Side of the Ring episode. I didn't really see pretty much everyone in the wrestling, who's in the wrestling business, and I'm talking talent managers, whatever, they kept quiet on this. They didn't really say anything about Flair. And then what was a year or so later, it's pretty much all forgotten about. He's back in WWE. He has the big retirement. He's got, was it Mick Foley, Bret Hart, Undertaker, they're all there for his, now is going to be his last match, but who the hell knows? You might want to try and get in the ring again. But Flair, though, there's stuff out there about Ric Flair. And I want to show you a clip, and it's a story that Shane Douglas tells about Ric Flair, and it's a story that was from a hotel, and Ric Flair, Shane Douglas was there as well, and it's involving, it was John Laurinaitis, who's also known as Johnny Ace, and Johnny Ace is caught up in all that stuff with the lawsuit with Janel Grant. So he apparently saved Johnny Ace, who was his tag partner at the time. They were a tag team dynamic dudes. Johnny Ace's girlfriend Marty, and he says this is from a sexual assault from Ric Flair. And he has told this story in a couple of interviews before, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the other time when he spoke about it. It seems to have been wiped from the internet. But there is this video clip here of Shane Douglas telling this story here. So I want to play this clip here. So here we go.
I see Marty come walking in, and I'm going to go to get up and go talk to her and let her know Johnny's not down yet. So I get up to go walk over, and Wally McDaniel grabs my pants, back of my pants, and goes, "Leave it alone, kid." Shit. Flair had beeline to her. She's looking like this, and there goes Flair to her. So that's why I try to get him to go save her. Wahoo grabs me, tells me to leave it alone, and back then the business was all built around respecting those that came before you. Never.
It's not letting me get full screen for some reason.
So I go sit back down. I'm watching. He's right in front of me here, halfway between the bar and the stairs. He goes to try to kiss her, and when he does, Marty goes like this and turns her head. So he grabs her by the chin, puts the chin back, goes to kiss her again. She turns this way this time. So he grabs her with both hands and stops and plants a kiss on her. When he did, her body went like, he's kissing her, she went like stiff as a board. She just looked like a woman that was being molested, And you could tell by the look on her face she was not enjoying it at all. Next thing I know, how he got her there, I have no idea, but next thing I know, she's lying on the floor. And she's laying on the ground like this, just got her hand up by her face like this. Like she's being raped in a room full of people. But what happened next was so bizarre, I don't know how everybody else in the bar didn't react, wrestler-wise. Because Flair stands up over, lays her down, stands up over top of her, unzips his pants, pulls his penis out, and starts flicking his penis up and down over top of her in this bar. I went, what the fuck? I get up out of the wall, grabbed me again, I said, leave it alone, kid. I smacked his head. I said, the fuck I will. Rick is facing the front door, and Marty's laying on the floor. I come down, I went, bam, as hard as I could, forearmed him and knocked him into the bar. And I can still see him, trying to pull his pants up, But I looked around the bar, and parents everywhere grabbing their kids and going like this, covering their eyes up and stuff. Obviously.
Right, so that's the story there that Shane Douglas tells. That story, for the most part, is pretty accurate. The same story that he has told before, going back 12, 13 years ago when he told this story. The only one thing that was different from this story was him, giving a forearm shot to Flair. I don't remember him telling that before. The first time I heard it on one radio show, he talked about it. He didn't mention that bit. He mentioned something about being there, but then going to Arn Anderson going to Arn Anderson, who, him and Flair were like best friends at the time, and saying, like, what the hell? Why are you not doing anything? And then Arn Anderson kind of get a response like, oh, trust me, I'd want to do something. I guess implying that, like, he could only do so much, and he's the top guy, the man, he's untouchable, like something like that. The second time I seem to remember correctly when he told the story was that he shoved Flair away. He pushed her away from the woman. But now, the third time, now he's saying that he delivered a forearm shot to Flair. So, I don't know. Again, this stuff with Shane Douglas and Flair, maybe this is where the heat started with Shane Douglas and Ric Flair. I don't know, because Shane really seemed to have his problems with Ric Flair, but then if you ask Flair about Shane Douglas, he acts like, oh no, I've got nothing against Shane, I don't know what his deal is, rah, rah, rah. But he's been fairly consistent with the story that he tells. And one thing when it comes to Shane Douglas, what he's saying, so he's, allegedly Shane Douglas is saying that Ric Flair assaulted this girl who was John Ace's girlfriend at the time. If this story was untrue, couldn't Ric Flair just go and sue Shane Douglas if the story was untrue? But then it's slightly different, the accounts from the other times I've heard the story being told. Again, that's from what I recall. I remember him mentioning Arn Anderson one time in that story. Then I think he did refer to Arn Anderson by his real name's Martin, and he gets called Marty. But sometimes, wrestlers, their stage names, wrestlers still call one another by their stage names, a lot of the time. But so that I know that's questionable. But I mean, we've heard all the stories about Flair and his penis, and it seems to be a bit consistent with the whole, plane ride from hell story. But Flair, though, he feels a certain way about Shane Douglas. He has buddied him before about talking about how he's a guy that had to go work at Target. This, that, the other. I suppose Target for British people would be like America's version of Asda, But with this, though, Ric Flair, he's not a big fan of Shane Douglas. So listen to this.
Let's go to Twitter. The Boston Pervert, what a great name that is, wants to know, what are your thoughts about Shane Douglas? It seems to me he is a whiny bitch always shooting on you. What's your take, Nate?
My take on Shane Douglas is shoulda, coulda, woulda, never had to, never will be. And yes, he does shoot on me. I'm not sure why. I guess he blames me for his career. I guess he blames everybody. But every time I see him, he walks up and shakes his hand like there's nothing going on. So I win. And why waste 1 minute of negativity on someone like that? So there you go.
So that was that's going back to like 2015 time when Conrad Thompson started out that podcast with his father-in-law Ric Flair. But with this, I mean, I don't know with Shane where it started, because Shane tells the story about how where his problems started with Ric Flair, not necessarily the incident at the hotel with the woman, John Ace's girlfriend at the time. It was when he wanted Ric Flair, he asked Ric Flair for some advice, that he wanted him to watch his match and see how well he was doing. And this went on for a few different times, and basically when he would ask him how he got on, it was very short, type of, oh yeah, you did fine, kid, all good, brilliant. And then Shane wanted to test out if Flair was telling the truth or if he was full of shit. So in a match, he had the match, and he had said to Flair that after when he came back was, what did you think of the crossbody? But Shane hadn't done a crossbody. And then Flair thought about it for just a few seconds, and he was like, yeah, it was brilliant, better than Steamboat. And I guess, he's told the story a few times, so that's when he said that he started to lose respect for Ric Flair. I mean, it could be both. Again, it could be both. Again, with timelines and stuff. But I know it would have been. You're talking, like that 89, 90 period. But I mean, Flair went to WWF in summer of 91, and Shane Douglas ended up going to WWF. He was there around 91, so it must have been around 89 going on 1990, I think. But I don't know. I mean, again, this does seem consistent, the whole thing of Flair, this obsession, flipping his penis, whipping it out. But then by the same token, he's told the story 3 different times, Shane Douglas, and there's slight differences in the story there that I've noticed. So I'm just being objective of this, and I'm not just saying, oh, I think this definitely happened, or I don't think that happened, But with this, I mean, he has said some other stuff on Shane Douglas as well, Ric Flair, and this is a more recent one. This is from last year, so where Shane was saying some other things about Ric Flair, and Ric didn't take all that kindly to it. So here we go.
Hey, let me ask something on the air. As soon as we got together today, before we clicked record, you said, hey, don't forget to ask me about Shane Douglas. And I have to admit, I don't really know what this is about. I haven't seen it. I think a lot of Shane. He's a nice guy, and I enjoyed his work in ECW, but I know you two have had your issues over the years.
I swear I've never had an issue with him. I can't even believe I'm acknowledging it, but because you're forced to look at your social media sometimes. He's got that 30-year itch, man. He just can't stop. He just can't get over me. And he did something where he said, he wished me the best, which was the nicest thing he's ever said about me.
Well, at the times that's disingenuous. People say that.
Shane Douglas hopes Ric Flair can find whatever peace he's searching for. That's the phrase.
Yeah. Well, I have found it, Shane. And once again, you've told another story. Shame on you. Because why would I try to fly out of town when I never fly out at night? Nobody took me to the airport. I didn't stop in 10 bars. Yes, I still drink. It's my business, not yours. And you were right about one thing. I got paid a shitload of money. You didn't. And don't worry about me finding me. Find, what's his real name?
Troy Martin.
I wish that Shane Douglas could find Troy Martin, whoever that is, and that Troy Martin could find Shane Douglas, whoever they are. And as an FYI, he's another guy that Bischoff brought in for me to put over. See, I just can't get rid of Bischoff.
Near the end of WCW.
30 years later, Shane, get over it. Look in the mirror. You didn't get along with the clique. You were a star in ECW. Wow. Hall of Fame career. Oh, my God, they're making documentaries all about you every time. Let me see. Can you help me out, Conrad?
Well, I mean, there's been ECW documentaries.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, listen, if we're going to compare your resume to almost anyone else in wrestling, that's
I'm not even comparing. I'm like, what is the deal about? Why can't he just forget about me?
Right.
He walked up to me and goes, "Hey, I'm sorry. I mean, face to face, he's the nicest guy in the world to me, but he just loves to talk." I don't even.
Right, so I mean, with this stuff, with this heat over the years with Shane Douglas, mostly I suppose that Shane Douglas has towards Ric Flair, is that Shane was one of these guys that felt when Ric Flair was the booker, that he wasn't, that he misused him, he was underutilized when Flair was the booker. And a few people have felt that way. There's Steiner that felt that way, that Flair tried to sabotage his push, his singles push. I mean, Mick Foley even said that Flair was a bad booker, didn't capitalize on certain things. I think when his ear came off in Germany. Also, Bret Hart's mentioned before about how he felt that Ric Flair was purposely screwing up spots and matches to mess with how over he would be and the pop he'd get from the fans and stuff like that. So maybe Flair was at it a little bit with people. I mean, I've heard stories that, Sid Vicious and Ultimate Warrior, Flair would tell them, "I don't know what to do with you." But then Flair's supposed to have this name as somebody that can, work with the broomstick and get the broomstick over. But I don't know. So maybe Flair is a little bit full of shit. Not to say that, he's a sexual deviant, but there's obviously some heat there with Shane Douglas and Ric Flair. with this other stuff with Ric Flair, though, so Deadspin.com, so they pointed out some stuff, stories over the years with Flair, and Tony Schiavone was saying something that Schiavone said that, where a woman ran screaming after he asked her to speak to Ric Flair, and then he emerged from a hotel suite party and asked her to put a sock in his penis. Feinstein, the guy that does RF Video, relates to a story he's told before of seeing Flair running down a hallway naked except for such a sock. Yeah, we've heard these stories a lot. I remember when Triple H did his induction speech. He said the first time he met Flair was when he was butt naked in a hotel lobby. Seems to be a very common thing, like a regular occurrence with Flair. Well, back then anyway. But then it gets a little bit more messed up here, though, when it says the book Ring of Hell claims that Flair made a habit of lifting waitresses' skirts and just saying, "Just checking, honey, you know what they say, no hair, no Flair." Mike Johnson reported that Flair was banned from drinking at the Hard Rock Cafe in City Walk in Orlando. This was around the time of when he was in TNA. There was something about an incident of, a confrontation with him and Orlando Jordan's partner at the time. I remember hearing that story. But then there's other stuff here where Ric Flair, Jim Ross is getting into some stuff about just some messed up stuff here about, being on they met a pair of flight attendants, and then Ric Flair just had an erect penis, and this was through his zipper, and some messed up stuff right here with Flair. Some proper messed up stuff, which no one would be pulling this shit today. Not post Me Too. But then you had the whole thing with Playing Ride from Hell that two different charter flight attendants said in a 2004 lawsuit that Flair sexually assaulted them. It was commonly referred to as a Plane Ride from Hell. There ended up being a settlement made. And people will always say the whole thing about settlement. Settlement's not an admission of guilt, but come on. If you settle, if you knew this wasn't true, wouldn't you just fight it all the way? Even if it's going to cost you so much in lawyer fees, you're still going to, morally, you would want to fight and stand up for what's right. Surely, huh? But anyway, so there is some more stuff out there, some more allegations, and these ones are a bit disturbing. This is with Sabu on Ric Flair. And Sabu, had problems, had demons. They had the thing at the Extreme Reunion pay-per-view. He, along with Justin Credible, I believe, had passed out backstage. But Sabu doesn't like Ric Flair at all, but he says that really it was more Rick didn't like him, didn't like his uncle, the original Sheik. But listen to this stuff with Sabu and allegations that comes to Ric Flair, and also him mentioning stuff that's quite, at a certain point, was common in the wrestling industry. It's quite messed up, this stuff here. So here we go.
I respected his wrestling. I didn't respect him as a human. I thought he was a dirty prick. And I've seen things and I heard even worse things about him. And if you heard one or two of those things, he's done way more than that, He wanted to got caught once, but he got away with it 1,000 times. I know a story where, I'm not going to give no names because there's some people I care about. But anyways, they were rooming next to each other, two girls, and the girl next door sounded like they were wrestling all night. And in the morning, she came over to the other room and said, I got go. It sounded like you guys were playing. He goes, no, the guy wouldn't leave until I fucked him in front of the wrestlers. He would not leave her alone, leave her room until she put out, sit in front of the door, hours and hours. She gave in, So he didn't beat her ass, or he just, stayed there until she did. That's terrible. Person in the room told the office, and they said, shh, we like that guy. Don't tell anybody. And they ended up firing the person that I was talking about.
The girl, the woman. Oh my God.
Yeah. They said, we like him, so don't say anything. So they didn't say anything, and they fired her. Them. Can't see her. Fired them. It was two of them.
Wow. And you had to force it out. I'm not leaving until...
Not leaving. He wouldn't leave as a good friend of mine, cocksucker.
Yeah, you're not the only person to say that, if it makes you feel any better.
Yeah, I know, but... I know. Things,
Sabu and Flair were both in WCW around 1985. And then TNA around
shut up.
2010
There's so
time.
many shitty things in this business. Never at a loss for words, really.
I'll mention this, and I don't know if you may keep it or not, I don't know, but Tony Atlas did an interview years ago, and he was with another fucking company, and he was talking about how in the 70s, notorious for roofing girls' drinks.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is that interview went nowhere.
That was like his style. Like, oh, Flair drugged her, she's okay. That's how it was. You know, it was ordinary. It wasn't a shock. And to them, it wasn't a crime. They did a lot of bad things, got away with it.
That's really unbelievable.
Yeah, and like Vince and whoever, Crockett, they overlooked it. They knew about it. It was no secret. Even Jim Ross goes, I can't fire him. He's Ric Flair. Like, what the fuck? You can't fire him. He's going to go to jail eventually, but maybe not, because he's Ric Flair. I mean, fuck, that's not a...
Flair was like on the same level as Hulk Hogan
he
at
got
that
a lot of heat
time.
about the plane ride from hell thing. He exposed himself to a
You
stewardess.
think how many times you got away with that?
Yeah.
Being exposed like that? 1,000 times. But that story, but he's done it 1,000 other stories. other ones are,
We have heard that story a lot,
I
though.
was at
Flair was
same
penis out.
hotel as him. The Marriott in Atlanta, and they rented one of the floors for all the wrestlers. So we left the doors open in that each room partying. Flair's running around naked. Everybody's running. Gets a girl, corners her, does what he does, and she walks away crying. Oh yeah, it's okay. Like she it was a crime. You know, it was a crime. Not him running around naked what he did with her, but everybody just, oh well, have another beer. You know, like no one was shocked. How can that be normal though? I mean, you know, it's bullshit.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It was normalized in wrestling at one point.
Sabu running down the halls with his dick hanging out.
I might have done that, but sometimes I never beat nobody. I swear that. I know that. I never did nothing like that. That's unforgivable almost. Drugging somebody and then venom, or that's terrible. And I've heard it a million times in Japan. It's called H-bombing, Hasian. You say, hey, what are you drinking? You put the thing, take your drink, give it back to them. They don't know what really.
Oh, they keep it in their mouth or
Yeah.
something? Oh,
They
shit.
put it in their mouth and spit it in their drink, and they drink it, and the drink, then they take her to the hotel. I've seen it 100 times, and I heard about it a million times. They go, oh yeah, so
Jay, so that's some proper heavy shit right there. You know, first off, he's saying about a story of a girl that he's friends with, he knows, and there's two girls that he's allegedly that he's saying that were sexually assaulted, but they went to complain at the company, but then they said no, can't do anything there. He's our top guy, and in the end, it was his friend, and I believe the other women too. They got fired. They got fired as a result. Some messed up stuff there, and you hear the story about the Marriott, Flair running around naked, you know, cornering a woman. Again, this is like similar other stuff we've heard before, like the stuff that Shane Douglas, his story. And then there's the whole other stuff about the whole thing of H-bombing girls with to do with their drink. That stuff, that's another thing that was Brutus the Barber Beefcake had said that Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty did back in the day. But one thing with that, because Nick Houseman recently, that wrestling journalist, asked Shawn Michaels about that, and he said that he took back that claim, that Brutus Beefcake took back that claim that had happened. You know, Marty Jannetty is known for some fucked up stuff about the whole stuff, and like, what was the whole thing about almost like him saying in a Facebook post that he would have had sex with his daughter or some weird messed up stuff. Again, Shawn Michaels, he's turned his life around, but I mean, one thing, the thing about Brutus Beefcake though is that when he was asked about that on Twitter, he didn't exactly backtrack. He just said it was an urban legend. So, you know, the thing with an urban legend, an urban legend, it's not him saying that that it didn't happen, but he's not just saying, well, I know for sure it did happen, but he's not at the same time saying, no, that did not happen whatsoever. Urban legend. It could have happened, it may have not happened. You know, so I don't think he entirely backtracked on that, did Beefcake. It might have just been one of those things he had heard through the boys that that's what they did. He maybe didn't actually know himself. He had just heard, you know, through other people, you know, in the locker room. But that's some pretty messed up stuff right there. The allegations there with the Sabu and Ric Flair, and then also there's the story at the start with Shane Douglas and Ric Flair. You know, as I say, you know, these are just allegations. Shane Douglas, now his story, slight differences as I pointed out. The plane ride from hell with the flight attendant Heidi Doyle. You know, the whole thing of her, you know, stealing $80,000 worth of jewelry, being the only one of the two that publicly wanted to speak on Dark Side of the Ring. But then, you know, Sabu, how his allegations, what he's saying, is that 100% true? You don't know. You can't say for sure that definitely did happen. Flair did this, Flair did that. You know, we don't know. They are accusations, but it's a very dark side to wrestling. It's just a very dark. At one point, definitely it was. I think it's improved for the most part, and with the boys in the locker room, but there was just a lot of bad stuff that went on, and it sounded from what they're saying, well, from going by what Sabu said about all that stuff and that culture, it was very much commonplace back in the day, around 80s and 90s, and it's a big thing. What happens with H-bomb and the girls, the drinks, it's very common in Japan as well. So there's a lot of bad shit there, so it's not just all the stuff, you know, with Ric Flair. There's other stuff there out there. You know, well, obviously the stuff with McMahon, but there's a lot of other people out there that have done some proper fucked up shit. You know, probably a lot of people that you looked up to at one point as a kid and you idolized, but you know, a lot of childhood illusions of people that maybe, I think all the people who looked up to Ric Flair back in the 80s, but all of these illusions get shattered. You know, they really do. They really do. But that's my video for now, guys. I mean, feel free to like, leave a comment, subscribe, but, you know, let me know what you think. Let me know what your take is, what your thoughts are on all the stuff that you saw here with what Shane Douglas and what Sabu was saying and all these allegations here surrounding Ric Flair. But that's me for now. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers. Bye.